Dear participant colleague, welcome to third batch of NEP Professional Development Program. Today, first live session on the professional education and internship. I, Dr. Ashok Kumar, welcome all of you, and along with my senior colleague, Professor Jaideep Sharma sir. Today we will be talking about on professional education and internship. And just for the information, classes of this batch will be held each day from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. and it will be available on the Swayam Prabha channel 17, 22, and videos will also be telecasted between 4:15 to 5:15 p.m. and e-content manual and videos are also available online. Now I hand over to Jaideep sir.
Namaskar, a very warm welcome to all of you to this third batch of NEP PDP program. I hope you're all ready to start with this first session that we have today, professional education and internship. I have with me my colleague Dr. Ashok Kumar, and we'll be taking you along together. We'll be participating together in this particular program. I will start with the title. Why did we think of having this session on this particular theme, professional education and internship? We began with thinking of talking on internship alone, but then we were suggested to have the context also. Therefore, we thought of having professional education and internship. So what we intend to talk of today is not only internship, we'll also talk of internship in context with professional education. Now let us begin with what is this internship? Nothing new, you all know about it, you call it by different names, internship, and there are other terms also. We call
Apprenticeship.
Apprenticeship, yes please.
On the job training.
Yes.
And induction training, orientation program, all are the forms of internship or trainings.
Yeah. So basically, it is something to do with placing our learners in the real life situation. What they are able to really relate their learning with their doing later on in the job. Therefore, we have different names, but when we think of the NEP 2020, they have used this term internship, though they have mentioned other terms also here and there. Basically, they refer to this by the term research internship. So, we will talk about research internship and we will also talk about what they include in this internship. Prior to NEP 2020, generally when we used to talk of internship, we were talking of internship from the point of view of professional education. In medicine, in law, engineering, pharmacy, and some such disciplines, we used to think of internship. But the particular feature of this NEP 2020 is that they talk of internship in all disciplines. You think of a discipline and you imagine internship there. You know there is a stress in NEP 2020 about making our learners think, developing their critical thinking skills. Let them be logical learners. Let them be independent learners. This is what we want to achieve. We don't want our learners to be rote learners. We want them to visualize things. We want them to be innovative. We want them to relate their learning and education with doing. We want them to be good citizens, to be citizens who are responsible and are able to apply their learning into their life skills. We want them to be good citizens, to be responsible citizens, and for that internship really plays a role. We want them to be learning and doing in teams. They should be able to do it in collaboration. So for that, internship is very important. Now, we will talk about a little bit about this internship at lower levels also. We'll also talk about internship, how it has been earlier, and how we can take it along further. Next slide, please.
Slide next.
Now this particular talk we have divided into different parts, like we'll talk a little bit about the highlights of NEP 2020. We'll also talk about professional vocational education at school level, then professional education at higher education institutions level, then reimagining this vocational education which was there earlier also, but how it can be made better, and then we'll move on to internship in NEP 2020. Now, if you would have seen this document on NEP 2020, you would have seen that it is in 4 parts. The first part is devoted to school education. Second part is on higher education, which is of use to all of us since we are all in higher education. Then other key areas of focus where you will find professional education and other such things. And then making it happen, where they talk about the operationalities of NEP 2020. So all parts are important, and I think you will all concentrate. You should read this document and then try to visualize. Now you see, when you talk of the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals, you find that goal 4 is related to education, where we say that by 2030 we will ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all by 2030. And therefore the aim of NEP is that we want by 2040 we are able to provide equitable access to highest quality education for all learners regardless of social or economic conditions. And for that, the policy proposes to revise and revamp all systems and aspects of education structure, including its regulations. Now, if you talk of professional education at school level, or you call it vocational education, I think you would all agree that we had begun professional or vocational education at school level at class 11 and class 12. We were calling it as socially useful and productive work, wherein students would enter different streams like those related to electrical engineering or maintaining electrical equipments at home, and some such different type of vocations that they were there, and they were doing it as an add-on, not as the part of curriculum. This was taken off as a add-on to their curriculum, and the marks were not counted, so was not taken as seriously as it would have been taken. So these were now it is visualized that make it as fun courses where the students will be given hands-on in different vocations like carpentry, electrical work, metal work, gardening, pottery making. We'll talk about all this, the implementation of this at school level a little later, about the concept of bagless education or bagless duration of the courses which they are attending. Now, this bagless period, as I was mentioning, they say that 10 days during their coursework, the students will be doing bagless courses wherein they will be engaged with vocational experts, as I was mentioning, different vocational experts, carpenters, gardeners, potters, artists, and they will not be having that the bag load that is there with the students, and they'll be learning as fun learning, and that is how you induct them into a particular vocation which they will enjoy, and they will translate their thoughts into that and really come up developing their skills in that particular vocation that they are interested in, and it depends on the interest of the student where he wants to enter that. This is at the level of school, and this will be translated further, taken further in continuity at the higher education level also, though at a much higher scale, and also in a much a scale of more complexity. So that we'll be discussing now today after this. Now, when you talk of professional education at higher education institutions level, now you all know, as I had told earlier also, that that was basically limited to professional courses only, or as we talk in IGNOU, professional programs only, and they were in isolation, and these were multidisciplinary institutions, and these are supposed to be now holistic and multidisciplinary, and to make them inclusive, to make them work alongside other institutions, we will see that these are all multidisciplinary institutions imparting holistic education, and they will be joining hands with each other, and those who cannot really afford to be multidisciplinary, there might be institutional clustering between them, and you will not find standalone agricultural universities, standalone legal universities or health universities or technical universities, because we are talking of holistic education. So maybe either they provide multidisciplinary holistic education, we have them bringing them into mainstream, they do not stand alone. So this is what we intend to achieve out of this NEP 2020. Now we have taken a statistics here that when you talk of agricultural universities, they comprise 9% of all universities, but the admissions are less than 1%. We want to develop, we want to take it further, we want to improve it, and for that we also need to concentrate on manpower development and also infrastructure development like agricultural technology parks. So this would really help to implement the concept of internship and also learning by doing and also experiential learning. So this is just one example for you. We can have many more such examples for other disciplines also. Similarly for the law education also, and it happens here otherwise also, but we want to make it more inclusive, more holistic, and by these examples, and also by making this education in regional languages, bilingual, and the students should be able to understand in their own languages. The curricula also has to reflect socio-cultural context, and for that complete revamping is really planned and it is underway also. So this we have already talked of for legal and healthcare education. Let us move further. For this, institution industry collaboration is required. Recently, you would have seen in newspapers, the UGC has also declared that we need to devise our curricula in collaboration with industry, and they have specifically mentioned the information technology industry, that when we design our courses should have a say from the IT industry people also. We should see what they want, what is the demand, because when you talk of demand and supply, they go together, and if we design our courses in isolation, if they are not consulted, if we do not know what is the demand, if we do not take into consideration their needs, their requirements, then this doesn't go together. Then because we are suppliers to them, and it is only when we know their requirements and demands, therefore this collaboration is required. And when we talk of internship, if we produce our products, if our learners really match their needs, and that will happen only if our curriculum is like that. Therefore this is very important. This has been stressed here in the NEP. Similarly, you all know, when we give the example of healthcare, there is a talk of Ayush, that when you talk of even allopathic system of medicine, the training in other systems of medicine is also very important. That is what is an example of pluralistic choices in healthcare. Now let us talk of this particular topic that we are discussing today, reimagining vocational education, and particularly the operationalization of internship. Basically, just to sensitize you all, we have collected some figures that when you talk of vocational education in countries like USA, it is 52% vocational education. In Germany, it is 75%. In Korea, it is 96%. But in our country, it is less, and the statistics says that for the age group 19 to 24, it is less than 5%. and during formal vocational education, because when you talk of vocational education, it can also be learning by doing. While they are part of the vocation, they learn, they see, they observe and learn. So that is not what we really intend, and therefore we need to provide it in a systematic way in our educational institutions at higher education level. And how we can do it, we'll talk of a case study also to help you out. So starting with school, moving on further, we can, in fact, the advantage of this is that the, would you like to, Ashok? Yes, please.
Sure, sir.
Yeah.
Actually, sir, in earlier policies like centrally sponsored scheme of vocational education, the main focus was largely on the grades 11th and 12th classes.
Yes.
Because students want to go into the higher studies, and vocational education courses were not aligned with the general education.
Yes.
So this policy NEP 2020 addressed this issue, and student passing out from grades like 11th and 12th with vocational subjects often did not get a well-defined pathway to continue their educational, whether it is vertical mobility or horizontal mobility.
Yes.
So the admissions criteria for general higher education were also not designed to provide openings to the students who had vocational education qualification. So to tackle this situation, as NSQF, National Skill Qualification Framework, was framed by the ministry in 2013, where all the mobility from level 1 to level 10 was defined, and it was started from the school education system. From class 9 onwards, student can pursue his or her qualification in vocational education in line with general education.
Now it is from class 6 in NEP.
Yes. So bringing with vocational exposure at early ages will ensure that every children learns at least one vocation and it's exposed to several more. So this policy focus exposing children at an early age, which is from grade 6 onwards, so that by 2025 at least 50% of our learners through the school and higher educational system shall have exposure to the vocational education. So they will be master in at least one vocation, and the vocational education will be integrated in the educational offerings in line with general education. So a person opting for vocational education disciplines or subjects can be eligible to pursue further in general education subjects. So for this, secondary school will also collaborate with ITIs, polytechnics, local industries, and skill labs will also be set up and created in the schools in a hub and spoke model. Means one will be the hub and other will be the spoke that will be connected to that lab or that institution providing skill-based education. Higher education institution will also offer vocational education either on their own or in partnership with industry or NGO. So there is a provision of this in this policy also. And standalone BVOC degrees introduced in 2013 when the NSQF was introduced will also be continued to exist. So that Bachelor of Vocational, Master of Vocational degree will continue according to this policy. But vocational courses will also be available to the student enrolled in other bachelor degree program. So there is a mobility vice versa. A general education student can move to the vocational education, and vocational education student can move to general education, including 4-year multidisciplinary bachelor program. So higher education institution will also be allowed to conduct short-term certificate courses in various skill, including soft skill like Lok Vidya, for example, and the possibility of offering vocational courses through ODL mode will also be explored. So this policy emphasizes imparting skills through regular institutions offering traditional education system and as well as through ODL also.
तो बेसिकली पर्पस ये हुआ कि बीवॉक तो हमने शुरू किया 2013 में, वो स्पेसिफिकली वोकेशनल के लिए ही था. लेकिन अब हम कोशिश ये कर रहे हैं कि जो वोकेशनल वाले हैं वो जनरल एजुकेशन भी लें, लिबरल आर्ट्स या अदर सब्जेक्ट्स में भी जाएं, और जो जनरल एजुकेशन वाले हैं वो वोकेशनल में भी जाएं. और उसके लिए हमने अलग अलग मीडियम बना दिए हैं कि वो उसको, जिससे कि फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी भी रहेगी और वो सीख भी सकते हैं. तो इंटीग्रेशन हो गया है. तो वोकेशनल इज नॉट सेपरेट, they are not a different stream.
Different. They are not alienated. They are in
They are not
holistic.
alienated.
They are multidisciplinary
Yes,
approach
yes,
more.
Yeah.
Slide. Again, in Ministry of Education will constitute a national committee for integration of vocational education to implement the policy guidelines or policy decision, which will consist of the experts in vocational education domain and representatives from the ministries in collaboration with the industry to oversee this effort, so that the policy decision of imparting vocational education will be implemented. The national skill qualification framework will also be detailed further for each discipline, vocation and profession. So here they are trying to identify the discipline specific vocations also, and a national skill qualification framework will be prepared. Further, Indian standards will be aligned with international standard classification of occupants, which is an international body which maintains occupational standards maintained by the International Labour Organization, and this framework will provide the basis for recognition of prior learning. A prior learning means which can be happened from the traditional educational settings, like for example, if a cook is cooking for several years and he has the skill for cooking thousands of guests and 4,000, so he knows everything, that what ingredients or what are the essential requirements to prepare the food for thousands people's gathering. So he can decide. So this prior learning, which is outside the setting, if some organization want to give admission, so he or she, his or her qualifications can be recognized because he has a prior learning. So in that case, that institution offering vocational education will only assess the skills of that person. So उसको एग्जेम्पशन भी मिल सकता है सर के, क्योंकि वो ऑलरेडी उस कुकिंग के जो एक्सपोजर है उसने वर्किंग आवर उसने फुलफिल किए हैं, तो उसको ज़रूरी नहीं है कि वो क्लासेस दोबारा से कुकिंग की लेनी पड़े, तो वो अपना जस्ट फॉर सर्टिफिकेशन के लिए वो एग्ज़ाम में अपीयर हो सकते हैं. Then further, the Indian standard will be aligned, we have discussed it, and the credit based framework will also facilitate mobility across general and vocational education. Again and again, this policy emphasizing holistic approach of general and vocational education altogether. So there will be no specific standalone stream of educations further.
Now coming to internship, as we were mentioning earlier also, that generally we were thinking of internship limited to professional courses and programs only, but now the way internship has been planned, UGC in the NEP 2020 has termed it as research internship. ये दो तरह की research internship है, those who want to prepare themselves for future research, further research, and those who want to enter different disciplines which are job oriented disciplines or different professions. So they have termed it as research internship. Now this internship that we are referring to here is that you want to contextualize your learning as per the real life situation. Like जो आपने सीखा वो आप जॉब में कैसे उसको implement करेंगे, कैसे उसको use करेंगे, contextualize कैसे करेंगे, उसको apply कैसे करेंगे, doing, translating your learning into doing. Implementing your skills what you have learned in the classroom in the field, तो उसके लिए हम internship provide करेंगे. और इसके लिए इसमें NEP में एक बड़ा ही structured डॉक्यूमेंट प्रोवाइड किया उन्होंने कैसे करें, और हम इग्नू में उसको कर रहे हैं, तो हम अपने एक्सपीरियंस में आपको थोड़ा सा इसके बारे में बताएंगे हाउ दिस इंटर्नशिप कैन बी रियली प्रोवाइडेड टू द स्टूडेंट्स एंड टू द लर्नर्स. Now, to enable your student to undergo this internship, you have to first prepare your student for the internship. जो हमारे learners हैं वो internship के लिए हमें उनको पहले तैयार करना पड़ेगा. Means we have to provide them basic skills or basic the knowledge that they really require to undergo internship. उसके लिए हमें उनको prepare करना पड़ेगा. ये हम अलग अलग डिसिप्लिन्स जो इंटर्नशिप कराएंगे वो हमें देखना है कि हमें किस तरह उनको इंटर्नशिप के लिए प्रिपेयर करना है. जैसे अब हम अपने डिसिप्लिन की बात करें लाइब्रेरी इंफॉर्मेशन साइंस, तो अब हम लाइब्रेरी इंफॉर्मेशन साइंस में जब इंटर्नशिप प्रोवाइड करेंगे, वी वांट आवर स्टूडेंट टू लर्न डिफरेंट ऑपरेशंस, डिफरेंट प्रोसीजर्स, डिफरेंट फंक्शंस दैट आर डन बाय एनी लाइब्रेरी और इंफॉर्मेशन सेंटर इन डिफरेंट सेटिंग्स. वो एकेडमिक सेटिंग में भी हो सकता है, पब्लिक लाइब्रेरी सेटिंग में भी हो सकता है, वो मीडिया हाउसेस में भी जा सकता है, वो किसी बिल्कुल ही नॉन ट्रेडिशनल सेटिंग में भी जाके काम कर सकता है. इट कुड बी सब्जेक्ट स्पेशलाइजेशन, इट कुड बी स्पेशलाइजेशन अकॉर्डिंग टू मटेरियल, सो इट कुड बी डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ स्पेशलाइजेशंस. तो हमने ये प्लान किया कि हम उसको पहले थ्योरी के कौन कौन से कोर्सेज उसको पढ़ने जरूरी हैं जिससे कि वो सब चीजें वहां सीख सके. बिकॉज यू नो ए लर्नर इफ इज टोटली रॉ will not be able to really go and learn the tricks of the trade there on the in the institution where he is to undergo internship. तो ये हमें आइडेंटिफाई करना है कि हम उसको क्या सिखाना है जिससे कि वो इंटर्नशिप के लिए तैयार हो जाए. तो बेसिकली जो डॉक्यूमेंट है इसमें उन्होंने कहा कि आप जैसे मान लीजिए 4 ईयर कोर्स है कोई आपका, तो उसमें फर्स्ट ईयर में जब आप उसको इंटर्नशिप के लिए भेजेंगे तो आप उसको सेकंड सेमेस्टर के बाद भेज सकते हैं. और सेकंड सेमेस्टर के बाद जब आप उसको भेजेंगे तो वो वहां 10 क्रेडिट की इंटर्नशिप करेगा. दिस इंटर्नशिप विल बी फॉर 10 credits and this 10 credit means for 1 credit it is 45 hours of internship. तो उस जगह जहां वो जाके इंटर्नशिप करेगा उसको 45 घंटे वहां देने हैं एक क्रेडिट के लिए. तो 10 क्रेडिट के लिए उसको 450 घंटे देने हैं. दैट विल बी एट द एंड ऑफ सेकेंड सेमेस्टर. एंड इन केस ही वांट्स टू विड्रॉ आफ्टर द सेकेंड सेमेस्टर, यानी कि 1 साल के बाद अगर वो छोड़ना चाहेगा तो हम उसको सर्टिफिकेट प्रोवाइड करेंगे जिसमें कि उसने 2 सेमेस्टर पढ़ा है और 450 घंटे 450 आवर्स ऑफ इंटर्नशिप ही हैज अंडरगॉन. Similarly, at the end of 4th semester, if the student wants to withdraw, he can be given a diploma and again 10 hours, 10 credits of internship and again 450 hours of internship. So this is for you to decide what should be the level of internship, what the student has to learn during the first year, what the student has to learn at the end of the second year. This is subject or discipline specific. Like we have also thought of that if a person leaves a particular course at the end of first year, what sort of jobs he can handle. Accordingly, we have decided what he has to learn during the internship. Similarly, at the end of the 4th semester, it should be a little higher because he is now fit for jobs that are of a higher level. इसी तरह उन्होंने कहा एट द एंड ऑफ 7th सेमेस्टर एक स्टूडेंट जो है वो फिर 10 क्रेडिट का इंटर्नशिप करेगा 450 आवर्स. और 7th, और ये तो हो गया जो लोग जॉब्स में जाएंगे या जो किसी पर्टिकुलर प्रोफेशन के लिए यू आर प्रिपेयरिंग देम. बट इन केस ए पर्सन गोज फॉर रिसर्च, देन इन द 7th and 8th सेमेस्टर ही हैज टू अंडरगो 36 credits of internship and therefore it is 30 credits of internship, not 36. तो इस तरह वो 30 और 30 60 क्रेडिट उसने टोटल क्रेडिट इंटर्नशिप के कर लिए हैं. लेकिन ये जो लास्ट का 7th और 8th सेमेस्टर का है इसमें वो एक डिजर्टेशन भी लिखेगा जो कि 30 क्रेडिट्स में इंक्लूडेड है. तो ये 4 साल में इस तरह आप उसको इंटर्नशिप का प्रोविजन दे सकते हैं. अब जब ये इंटर्नशिप देंगे इसकी ऑपरेशनैलिटी के बारे में भी आपको थोड़ा सा जानना पड़ेगा. हाउ दिस विल बी रियली डन. अगेन दिस डॉक्यूमेंट हैज वेरी स्पेसिफिकली मेंशन्ड व्हाट शुड बी डन. देयर शुड बी अ पोर्टल व्हिच हेल्प्स द स्टूडेंट, द लर्नर, the institution where the learner has to go and undergo internship, and also the institution, the parent institution. जैसे अगर हम अपनी यूनिवर्सिटी के किसी स्टूडेंट को इंटर्नशिप के लिए भेजेंगे तो देयर इज ए होस्ट इंस्टीट्यूशन, देयर इज ए पेरेंट इंस्टीट्यूशन. तो द इंस्टीट्यूशन विच इज द होस्ट इंस्टीट्यूशन, they have called it as internship provider organization, IPO. So everyone has access to this portal. So on this portal you need to provide the organizations that provide internship to our students, and these organizations should know what is the purpose of this internship, what are the objectives, what are the learning outcomes for this internship, that have to be made clear to the organizations who would train our students. And there has to be a mentor from our own institution, the parent institution, there has to be a mentor, and from the host institution there has to be a supervisor. So we need to make it very clear what the supervisor is to do, what the mentor will do to help the student. It is the choice of the student to choose the institution, but the mentor will help the student how to select the institution for internship. ये depend करता है student की एबिलिटीज़ के ऊपर, स्टूडेंट के फर्दर जॉब उसके विच एरिया द स्टूडेंट वांट टू गो इन फॉर जॉब, बिकॉज देर आर डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ इंस्टीट्यूशंस, देर आर डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ स्पेशलाइजेशंस, द टाइप ऑफ इंस्टीट्यूशन दैट दिस स्टूडेंट हैज अ टेस्ट फॉर, द टाइप ऑफ एबिलिटीज दैट द स्टूडेंट हैज. लाइक आई हैव गिवन एन एग्जाम्पल हियर. जैसे एक छोटा सा एग्जाम्पल ले लेते हैं. जैसे मान लीजिए आप सोचते होंगे कि क्या लिटरेचर के स्टूडेंट भी इंटर्नशिप कर सकते हैं? येस, दे कैन ऑल्सो गो undergo internship. Like they can be attached to media houses, they can be attached to print media houses, they can be attached to the non-print media houses. Similarly, if you talk of the students who are into performing arts, it is very easy to undergo internship. You can have them also attached to such institutions. So and they learn bit by bit, year by year. Now this portal will again be very useful not only to identify institutions where they can have themselves enrolled for internship. ये NEP PDP document क्या कहता है? It says that let them choose, let them apply for internship, and once the institution where they want to do the internship, if they see yes, this student can be taken, they will inform the student, yes, we can take you. Then this student will inform the host institution, like since he is our student, we should know that, and once the student is taken there, then there is a record, yes, the student is there as an intern. So now the internship starts. You all would remember I told you that for 10 credit is 450 hours. So we have to have a set program for him कि इन 450 hours में उसने क्या क्या सीखना है. तो you need to provide a very detailed program for him, that during these 450 hours, depending on the learning outcomes, what the student has to learn, what he has to be capable of, where he is right now, what is his level, from this level he has to be taken to that level, and how will he move from here to here. That we have to plan, and we have to inform the institution where he is undergoing internship, and therefore it is a step-by-step programmed learning where the student moves from this level step by step to the highest level. For that we have to mention the hours that he has to put in for a particular step, and then we have also to monitor him. There are two levels at which the student is being monitored. One is the supervisor in the institution, the other is the mentor in the host institution. Mentor भी देखेगा कि वो किस तरह सीख रहा है, और उधर वो supervisor उसको supervise करेगा ही. तो इस तरह वो टाइम पे वो उसकी लर्निंग होगी, फिर उसका इवेल्युएशन होगा. इवेल्युएशन विल अगेन बाय द सुपरवाइजर, एंड वंस ही इज सेटिस्फाइड, यस दिस इज ओके, then the student will be given a certificate, yes, the student has undergone internship, and there may be some grade also given by them. Then this student is evaluated by the host institution. Like what we have planned here at IGNOU, we have made it as a full course which is mandatory that the student has to do for 100 marks. Therefore, we have given a weightage to each and every component, and finally we will conduct a viva voce of the student. तो देखिए जो वो सीख के आता है वो सुपरवाइजर ने देखा इसने कितना सीखा, और फिर हम उसको यहाँ दोबारा से इवेल्युएट करेंगे जब हम उसका वाइवा वॉसी करेंगे, उसको हम मेजर करेंगे उसने कितना सीखा. तो इससे क्या होगा, सीरियसनेस भी आएगी. सीरियसनेस दोनों पार्ट्स पे आएगी, फ्रॉम द पार्ट ऑफ द इंस्टीट्यूशन, होस्ट इंस्टीट्यूशन, एज वेल एज फ्रॉम द पार्ट ऑफ द इंस्टीट्यूशन हु इज प्रोवाइडिंग इंटर्नशिप. It is generally seen in the society that people are averse to taking interns. They are feeling as if it is an additional load on them. But now, if this is really brought home to them, that those who come for internship in their institution, they come up with new ideas. They can also bring in fresh ideas in that particular institution. They can be help to that institution. It is like a corporate social responsibility also on the part of those institutions. And it is always a win-win situation for both. The students they learn how to put in their knowledge and skills that they have learned here in the host institution, because they are provided the environment, they are provided with the equipments, they are provided with the techniques and technology, They also have co-workers with them. They learn to work as a team. They they also learn communication skills. They also learn how to handle situations. They also learn how to handle pressure situations. They learn the tricks of the trade, and while they undergo such training, the institution also tries to identify, yes, this is the person we are looking for. Therefore, after he completes his education, maybe they would like to take that particular student or a number of students as employees for their organization. तो देखिए ये बड़ा अच्छा कंसेप्ट है इंटर्नशिप का, चीज़ें धीरे धीरे पिकअप करेंगी. It has also been mentioned in that document of NEP 2020 that the student, the intern should be provided facilities of hostel, should be provided minimum healthcare facilities, should also be given a stipend. बड़ा मुश्किल लगता है कभी कभी शुरू में कि ये सब हो पाएगा, but then it is a responsibility. And I would like to share with you all that yes, while we are planning this in our university, many institutions have come up, they have agreed to provide internship to our students, and some of them even say, because to begin with, we have not said that you have to give them a stipend also. But on their own, कुछ institutes ने कहा, we would like to pay your students in stipend. So this is such a welcome suggestion, and this is an encouragement for us that yes, the society feels that internship is important and interns are important. Now, taking on some other aspects of this internship, I'll request my colleague Dr. Ashok also to shed light on this particular aspect.
Actually, sir, the timing of
Yes.
sending intern to the
Yes, that
training
is
is very important, because if we send them in early stages of the learning, so she may not have the formal foundation of the subject.
Yes, yes.
तो जो टाइमिंग है वो बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट
जी.
है. एज इन इग्नू वी हैव डिसाइडेड दैट वी शुड सेंड अवर स्टूडेंट आफ्टर कंप्लीशन ऑफ एटलीस्ट फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर. उसके बाद हम उसको भेजें, क्योंकि जो हमारे जो कोर्स की ड्यूरेशन है, स्पेशली फॉर 1 ईयर कोर्स ड्यूरेशन लाइक लाइब्रेरी साइंसेज के, तो टाइमिंग बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. सो जैसे कि हमने इंटर्नशिप में एक प्रोविज़न भी किया है आइडेंटिफिकेशन ऑफ रिसर्च प्रॉब्लम, तो डिफरेंट इंस्टीट्यूशंस को हम आइडेंटिफाई करेंगे ताकि उसमें उनको डिफरेंट सेटिंग्स में इंटर्नशिप मिल सके, चाहे वो पब्लिक लाइब्रेरी है या वो गवर्नमेंट लाइब्रेरी है या वो एकेडमिक लाइब्रेरी है. देन डिटेलिंग ऑफ इंटर्न्स रोल्स एंड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज़, ये सब चीज़ें बहुत डिटेल में डिफाइंड होनी चाहिए. जैसे हमने बताया है अपने इंटर्नशिप पॉलिसी में जो अपने डिसिप्लिन के लिए फ्रेम की है कि दैट इंटर्नशिप शुड डू एंड डोंट डू, तो वो भी आपको बताना है कि इंटर्नशिप एज ए इंटर्न उनके क्या रोल हैं. देन इंटर्नशिप टाइमलीनेस एक टाइम फेज मैनर में होना चाहिए. जैसे एक प्रोविजन है वर्क बुक का, तो वी हैव इंट्रोड्यूस वर्क बुक विच इज़ टू बी वेरीफाइड बाय द सुपरवाइजर, इंटर्नशिप सुपरवाइजर एट द होस्ट इंस्टीट्यूशन, जिससे ये हो कि प्रोग्रेस जो है, वीकली प्रोग्रेस, मंथली प्रोग्रेस स्टूडेंट्स की पता लगे कि उसको एक्सपेक्टेड आउटकम जो लर्निंग आउटकम्स हैं वो अचीव हो रहे हैं या नहीं है. इज़ देयर एनी करेक्शन रिक्वायर्ड और इज एनी फर्दर हेल्प इट इज़ रिक्वायर्ड बाय द स्टूडेंट, तो वो सब चीज़ें उसमें टेक ओवर कर सकते हैं. देन गाइडेंस एंड रेगुलर फीडबैक जो ट्रेनिंग प्रोवाइडर्स हैं वो इंस्टीट्यूशंस को भी प्रोवाइड करा सकते हैं, विच इज़ एन इम्पॉर्टेंट आस्पेक्ट. एंड द मॉनिटरिंग ऑफ इंटर्न्स प्रोग्रेस, होस्ट इंस्टीट्यूशन एज वेल एज जो इंस्टीट्यूशन ने उसको इंटर्न को भेजा है इंटर्न्स के लिए, इंटर्नशिप के लिए, तो वो दोनों मॉनिटरिंग दोनों पार्ट पे करना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज लास्ट में उसका इवेल्युएशन है एंड इट विल बी काउंटेड टुवर्ड्स मार्क्स. तो वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट आस्पेक्ट है और उसमें स्किल्स ज़्यादा ओरिएंटेड होने चाहिए. स्पेसिफिक डिसिप्लिन के स्पेसिफिक स्किल्स होंगे, जैसा आपने पहले ही बताया कि जो अब कोई इमेजिन कर सकता है कि ह्यूमैनिटीज़ के डिसिप्लिन के लिए क्या स्किल्स हो सकते हैं. तो ऑब्वियसली दोज हु आर फ्रॉम लैंग्वेजेस दे कैन बी इंडक्टेड एज ए रिसर्च इंटर्न, और दे कैन बी इंडक्टेड इन द म्यूजियम्स, लाइक कोई संस्कृत जैसी भाषा जानता है या कोई पाली, प्राकृत जैसा एंशिएंट लैंग्वेजेस को जानते हैं, तो जो म्यूजियम्स हैं जहाँ मैन्यूस्क्रिप्ट्स पे ज़्यादा काम होता है, तो वो वहाँ एज ए इंटरप्रेटर के तौर पे या एज ए ट्रांसलेटर के तौर पे वो इंटर्नशिप कर सकते हैं, एज ए स्किल वो सीख सकते हैं.
कंटेंट डेवलपमेंट,
यस यस सर, कंटेंट डेवलपमेंट इज इम्पॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट है. ऐसे ही बहुत सारे जो परफॉर्मिंग आर्ट्स के जो डिसिप्लिन्स हैं उसमें दे कैन लर्न बाय डूइंग, बिकॉज जैसे एक योगा है, तो योगा में इंटर्नशिप कैसे हो सकता है, हम कैसे उसको कर सकते हैं, तो वी कैन टेल देम टू प्रैक्टिसाइज द आसना एंड परफॉर्म इट, उसके जो वेरियस एस्पेक्ट्स हैं उसके बारे में उनको टेक्निकल एस्पेक्ट्स को बता सकते हैं, उसके हेल्थ इम्पैक्ट क्या है, सोशल इम्पैक्ट क्या है, मेंटल इम्पैक्ट क्या है, तो वो सब चीज़ें हम डिसिप्लिन स्पेसिफिक इंटर्नशिप को हमें ध्यान में रखते हुए, स्किल्स को ध्यान में रखते हुए फ्रेम करना चाहिए।
जैसे इकोनॉमिक्स है वो बैंकिंग सेक्टर में जा सकते हैं, इंश्योरेंस सेक्टर में जा सकता है, तो इंटर्नशिप हर जगह हम कर सकते हैं। ये आपने बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट उठाया, जैसे वर्कबुक का है, ये भी देखिए, वी वांट टू मॉनिटर, वी रियली वांट देम टू लर्न। तो मॉनिटरिंग का मतलब ये है कि जब भी हम ऑब्जर्व करेंगे कि कुछ दिक्कत है, स्टूडेंट इज नॉट एबल टू रियली अचीव व्हाट द लर्नर इज अबाउट टू इंटेंडिंग टू अचीव, तो वो उसके लिए हमने वेज एंड मेजर्स करे हैं। तो उसमें वर्कबुक एक मेजर है कि वर्कबुक वो भरेगा कि ये सीखा, ऐसे किया, तो उसमें ये है कि विल बी एबल टू आइडेंटिफाई एज मेंटर। सिमिलरली सुपरवाइजर तो है ही, वो तो डायरेक्ट सुपरविजन कर रहे हैं। तो ये सब हमने ये सब कुछ NEP PDP में ही दिया हुआ है कि कैसे ये आपने करना है, तो वो प्रोविजंस हम लगाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं।
इसके लिए गाइडिंग प्रिंसिपल के तौर पे जो UGC ने पॉलिसी फ्रेम की है, UGC ड्राफ्ट गाइडलाइंस फॉर रिसर्च इंटर्नशिप, तो इसमें 2 तरीके के उन्होंने इंटर्नशिप बताए। फर्स्ट इज रिसर्च इंटर्नशिप टू एनहेंस एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी ऑफ एन इंडिविजुअल स्टूडेंट, तो उसके जो एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी स्किल्स है उसको एनहेंस करने के लिए फोकस होगा। सेकंड है रिसर्च इंटर्नशिप टू डेवलप रिसर्च एप्टीट्यूड ऑफ एन इंडिविजुअल स्टूडेंट। तो जो सेक्टर जहाँ पे एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी स्किल्स की बात की जा रही है वहाँ पे हम फर्स्ट जो ऑप्शन है उसको चूज़ कर सकते हैं, और जो एरियाज जैसे हमारे ह्यूमैनिटीज़ के हैं वहाँ पे जो रिसर्च बेस्ड इंटर्नशिप को हम उसको एज ए गाइडिंग प्रिंसिपल वो कर सकते हैं, उसको ले सकते हैं वाइल डिजाइनिंग प्रोग्राम फॉर आवर इंस्टीट्यूशन। तो इस तरीके से उसको कर सकते हैं। उसमें इन्होंने स्टेप बाय स्टेप मिनिमम रिक्वायरमेंट्स ऑफ सच एज 20 क्रेडिट शुड बी देयर आउट ऑफ 160 क्रेडिट इफ़ वी आर ऑफरिंग 4-year डिग्री प्रोग्राम। तो सबसे ज़्यादा जो 4-year डिग्री प्रोग्राम जो इंस्टीट्यूशंस ऑफर करेंगे वहाँ पे मिनिमम 20 क्रेडिट्स को किस तरीके से उनको प्लान करना है इंटर्नशिप के लिए, और किस किस लेवल पे कितना मिनिमम क्रेडिट्स उनको अर्न करने हैं टू अचीव सर्टिफिकेट और डिप्लोमा एटलीस्ट। तो वो सब इस पॉलिसी में बहुत अच्छे से गाइडिंग प्रिंसिपल के तौर पे बताए गए हैं, तो ये हम इसको फॉलो कर सकते हैं।
तो ये आप स्लाइड में देख रहे हैं कि 7 सेमेस्टर में जो हम बता रहे थे वो सब यहाँ दिया हुआ है।
जी। सो एज इट इज़ वेरी क्लियर फ्रॉम सीरियल नंबर 1 दैट आफ्टर सेकंड सेमेस्टर ऑफ 1 year 8 to 10 weeks duration is suggested for internship, and it will include hands-on training, short research project जो 10 क्रेडिट के होंगे, and after 4th semester second year 8 to 10 week hands-on training, short research project, again 10 credits, and during 7th semester 10 weeks research ability enhancement course up to 10 credits, and actual research activities of 1 year 12-month duration will lead to the dissertation and thesis which will be of 30 credits.
That will be 7th and 8th semester.
Yes.
चौथे साल में करेंगे वो लोग। तो थोड़ा मुश्किल तो है, बड़ा टाइट रहेगा शेड्यूल स्टूडेंट्स का, लेकिन धीरे धीरे लोगों को आदत हो जाएगी, लोग एंजॉय करेंगे, बिकॉज दिस इज रियली एंजॉयबल।
एक्चुअली सर दिस इज न्यू बिकॉज एज ऑफ नाउ अभी तक जो इंटर्नशिप प्रोविजंस थे वो मोस्ट ऑफ द जो प्रोफेशनल कोर्सेज हैं आपके मेडिकल के, आर्किटेक्चर, इंजीनियरिंग, उन फार्मेसी, तो वहाँ पे ड्यूरिंग कोर्स ड्यूरेशन आपको एज ए इंटर्नशिप करना होता है, जो मिनिमम रिक्वायरमेंट होता है आपके कोर्स की डिग्री को अवॉर्ड करने के लिए। जस्ट बिकॉज दिस पॉलिसी इज merging both the stream and there will be no more specific stream, so we are talking about the internship at university level all together as a general education and professional education। तो यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा क्या है, अब जो प्रोफेशनल एजुकेशन के कोर्सेज होते हैं वहाँ तो ऑन द उसमें वो ड्यूरिंग स्टडी वो ट्रेनिंग लेते थे, बट जनरल एजुकेशन के कोर्सेज को करने के कंप्लीट करने के बाद वो ट्रेनिंग लेते थे एज ए अप्रेंटिसशिप एक्ट, जो नेशनल अप्रेंटिसशिप पोर्टल ऑफ इंडिया है उस पर रजिस्टर करके वो लेते थे, या वो अपने हिसाब से चूज़ करते थे कि मुझे इस इंडस्ट्री में या इस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में वो लेना है। बट यहाँ अभी इंस्टीट्यूशन दोज हु आर ऑफरिंग डिग्री उनका भी रोल है, क्योंकि वो जो इंटर्नशिप देंगे वो वाइल स्टडी ही वो देंगे, तो उनके एक स्टडी का पार्ट है विच इज़ मैंडेटरी। सो दिस इज़ द यूनिकनेस ऑफ दिस पॉलिसी।
साइंसेज में खासकर देयर इज ऑलवेज ए पॉसिबिलिटी बिकॉज people have their own projects and students can be associated in those projects, and while they work in that project they have this is really an advantage. And the person also who is has the project also has the advantage of having young minds with him, and he can direct them and they can help the person very well. एक चीज़ है थोड़ा सा इंटर्नशिप में, पर्टिकुलरली फॉर दोज स्टूडेंट्स हु आर देयर इन फार फ्लंग एरियाज, जैसे मान लीजिए ऐसे एरियाज में वो लोग हैं स्टूडेंट्स जहां आसपास इंडस्ट्री नहीं है, उनको जाना मुश्किल है या वहां वो रोज़ रोज़ नहीं जा सकते हैं, उनके लिए एक फैसिलिटी हम प्रोवाइड कर सकते हैं ऑनलाइन इंटर्नशिप का. दो इट इज़ नॉट वेरी मच स्ट्रेस्ड अदरवाइज, बिकॉज इंटर्नशिप का पर्पज ही डिफीट हो जाता है अगर इंस्टीट्यूशन किसी स्टूडेंट इज नॉट रियली डूइंग इट इन ए रियल work life situation, because that is really amiss when one does an online internship. But in case there are such situations where the student is in such a place that these facilities are not there, then I think we should plan for online internship, and that can also be done because these days we have things available and online can be done. We can provide a set of activities, we have to design a portal, and we have to see that in the portal we set limits that the person has to do this particular job or operation for these many hours, then after this a break, and then again for these many hours. But that is an advantage for the student कि भी student अपने उसको वो कभी भी टाइम मिलेगा दिन में वो करेगा, और ये उनके लिए भी अच्छा है जो on the job है otherwise, because you see that those who are learning while they are working, why should they be forced to take leave for 3 months? In fact, they cannot do it because job is paramount for them. So let them learn at their own pace, at their own convenience, but then they will be missing the real culture, the real situation and real culture of that institution. But then since there is a limitation, we can provide them online internship portal, have a set of activities on that portal, have time limits for those activities, and also have someone monitoring them online while they do it on those online portals. So that is also required, and particularly for a university like ours, we are planning that also for our students and for your institutions also. As I was mentioning, अब तो हम NEP 2020 में ये क्या कह रहे हैं कि लोग एक institution से दूसरे institution में भी सीखेंगे. We are talking of credit transfer, we are talking of learning across institutions. So when these are all there, I think we need to have this facility also for our students, because internship is very important, and you cannot say that though as Dr. Ashok has earlier mentioned that you have to measure prior learning. So if a person is expert in a particular job, we should not insist that yes, part of internship he has to undergo. That is already the person has really known. In fact, I think we should think of ways and means where we can utilize this expertise of such learners to impart this training to our other learners. I think that will be something yes, innovation yes, on our part.
Sir, as you said that we need to have internship portal, let me show you that AICT internship portal
yes,
as
yes,
an example.
It is already
where an intern can register by self, and training provider can also register by
yes,
self.
Yes, yes.
And it can an intern can search the internship opportunity nearby his or her area.
City wise it is given.
Yes. So that is a very good example of a portal where we have to search opportunities and where we can offer opportunities also. And there is another one is NAPS, National Apprenticeship Portal. It is a similar kind of portal for apprenticeship offered by the government institution. So in future we will have this kind of portal for our university also, which we are thinking about it.
Yes.
So our intern will register on that, and the training provider will also register there, and we will facilitate as a mentor, and we will monitor the activities, progress of the intern, evaluation of the intern, and their dashboard will be available. Those who are already working, those who are already getting internship, those who have passed, those who have not passed. So this portal will really help us to monitor the internship.
So I think what we have discussed today is that we started with the concept of internship, and we were talking this right from the school level, and this has really been stressed in the NEP, and then we moved on how it was earlier and how it has been changed now, how we are trying to reimagine internship across institutions. Then we moved on to the operationalities of these internship, and I think you would like to implement in your curriculum and your institution also. we will try to answer any queries or questions that you have.
Thank you so much for your insight on this topic. Thank you
you
so much. So
Thank you.
we have some questions with us, and one question is that what is the use of this course, sir?
देखिए हम तो इतनी देर से this question comes at this stage because we have been talking of that when you talk of internship, it is learning by doing, translating your knowledge, your skills into really doing it. देखिए आप जब हम theoretical concepts को पढ़ते हैं और हम उनका contextualize नहीं कर सकते, we are not able to see what is its application in our future, in job, in employment or otherwise also. Every learning is meaningful. What is that meaning? How is it associated? Why we are learning that? So that really one is able to do it during internship. So I think once you try to really think about in your discipline, you will see yes, it is required, it is important.
And there is one more advantage also, sir, as it is this course is regarded by the UGC as a professional development program. So those who are working, they will get the benefit of cash and promotional.
अच्छा 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 आई एम सॉरी, मैंने समझा कि आप इंटर्नशिप का वो पूछ रहे हैं. हाँ, पीडीपी का तो जो आप कर रहे हैं ये तो है ही यूजफुल. एक तो ये जैसे आपने बताया कि आपके क्रेडिट में हो जाएगा, आपने 6 वीक्स का कोर्स कर लिया. दूसरा ये है आप इसको अप्लाई करेंगे ना अपने करिकुलम में, ये तो सबसे बड़ा फायदा है इसका. दैट इज द बिगेस्ट एडवांटेज.
So apart from this NEP, sir, is there any guiding document which can help in designing this internship or this degree program for vocational, professional or general education?
Yes, yes. We have already made mention of this NEP 2020 document. This is like the Gita for us, like any sacred document which we should always consult. There are other documents also. I think we'll be able to provide you reference for those documents if we can provide the NSVQF document.
National Vocational Education Qualification Framework and National Skill Qualification.
Yeah, this is the
NSQ.
document. We have brought a print also. We can also provide you the reference to this document. The actually government is making all efforts. तरह तरह की bodies बैठ गई हैं. अभी जैसे डॉक्टर अशोक ने भी आपको बताया कि ये बताने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. We are trying to standardize skill vocation qualification framework. We are trying to provide it in the Indian context also. तो ये सारे efforts हो रहे हैं और आपको ये सब literature काफ़ी ज़्यादा आपको मिलेगा जगह जगह. और लोग अपने अपने जो पर्टिकुलर इंडिविजुअल एफर्ट्स हैं उनको भी डॉक्यूमेंट कर रहे हैं, उनके ऊपर भी आर्टिकल्स लिख रहे हैं.
Yes, yes. So this program will sensitize them how to implement the policy, how to frame the guidelines, how to address the issue of multiple entry exit, how to, since there is a ABC Academic Bank of Credit is also there, so this policy also help them to address this ABC also. So there are many things this NEP and PDP will also help them.
Yeah. देखिए, when we had planned about this internship, we were far behind. We were really did not have that much of ideas. But while we planned for it, I think we are quite clear now about so many things. And part of the credit for part of this goes to our learners. They have been raising questions. They have been asking us. They have really helped us to clarify in certain things. Because we have already implemented for our students of this particular batch, we have introduced internship. Like this question, people used to say, I'm in job, how can I take leave for 3 months? Then we thought that yes, we can provide, they can take internship in their own institution. अब वो अपने इंस्टीट्यूशन में किसी लोअर लेवल पे काम करते हैं, हम उनको डिग्री जब दे रहे हैं तो वी वांट देम टू लर्न बेटर, वी वांट देम टू बी एट ए हायर लेवल. सो वी टोल्ड देम यस, in your own institution you can do internship, because we would not like them to lose their jobs for internship. So within their own institution, if they are not able to do it on the 5 working days, they can do it on the holidays also. There are certain institutions that are open 7 days a week and they may provide facilities to such students. And finally, as I mentioned, online internship portal which we are planning, and very soon I think we'll be able to successfully plan that online internship also. So that is the final. But then we would not like anyone to go in for online internship if the person can really afford to do it physically in the institution, because the whole purpose of internship is lost if the person is not really able to do it in a real life situation, working with colleagues, working with the physical environs of the institution, and also handling the challenges and risks that are involved there, coming up with the problems that are there in the institution. That will be little difficult, though we are trying to visualize that also, bringing in real life situation, case studies in online mode also, so that we are able to give that feel to the person who is undergoing internship. There are new technologies that are coming up, AI, VR technologies are there, and I think with time to come, when these are available low cost, we'll be able to do it. Like for in online internship, what we have planned, we'll try to help our students to really automate and digitize the resources, provide automated services. For that, open source software are there, so that is not an issue, we'll be able to do it. But then we were thinking that we may miss the user component, because in a library, if a staff is asked to sit on the reference desk, it is one of the most difficult jobs, because you are always uncertain what sort of reference queries may come in, and if you are not able to really answer the query in time, you are really gone. The user will not come next time. So that part may be missing if we are not able to attend internship in the institution while the user is there. Yes, please, Ashok.
So there is one more question, that
Yeah.
what are the benefits of skills in higher education and job profile?
When you talk of skills and particularly job, you cannot think of a job without skills, because there is the objective of any institution is what does it exist for? There are certain objectives, and if you are not able to really achieve those objectives by providing the services, by really doing that job, then there is no point. Therefore, see what happens whenever learners come out of an institution in the real life situation, the employer always has a complaint that you are too theoretical, you do not really know the practical aspects of the employment of the employer. So that gap will reduce. We impart competencies, we tell them theoretically, we provide them practical hands-on sessions in educational institutions. But when we talk of university-industry interaction, what is that? We try to see that what the industry wants is made known to the educational institution. Similarly, what the educational institution is imparting to its learners should be able to made known to the industry also. And there is a interaction, there is a mutual learning between the academia and the industry. So how will it happen? This internship will enable it to make it happen. You may call industry experts in your educational institution for lectures, but those are lectures only. So you are bringing industry in the university, but you also take your university to the industry. I think this is really something which is going to be really beneficial to the learners, beneficial to the employers also. I think we could clarify your question.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving so insightful on this topic, professional education and internships. Still, this topic is evolving, and NEP के अकॉर्डिंग बहुत सारे चेंजेस अभी और होने हैं, तो डे बाय डे न्यू थिंग्स आर कमिंग and we are experiencing, and surely these guidelines, these frameworks and policies will help us to implement this policy in a time bound manner and in an effective manner.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sparing your valuable time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, participant, for connecting with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Please join us tomorrow at 3 p.m. Thank you so much.
Now, before I start with the actual presentation of the policy itself, I will spend a few minutes with respect to the relevance of education in the present context. A lot of things have been asked to me in public with respect to why at this time an educational policy, what kind of relevance does it have in the context of India and in the context of the global developments. And always you have to articulate some aspects of it. Of course, first we all recognize there's more than 3 decades since we had the last one, and there are several developments that have happened. India, of course, will have the highest population of young people in the world over the next decade, and we recognize that nearly 50% of the population will be below 35 years of age, aspiring for high quality education. This democratic dividend certainly has to be taken advantage of. I don't think we have discussed it in several platforms. We have debated it, and certainly this is a direction and aspiration for the country which we have to realize. Globalization and demands of a knowledge economy and knowledge society call for emphasis on the need for acquisition of new skills by learners on a regular basis for them to learn how to learn and become lifelong learners, a critical consideration to be addressed appropriately. And that is where this education policy certainly has focused on. Changes in knowledge landscape, especially science and technology, I'm going to have to say here, with advances in big data analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, all demand skilled workforce involving mathematics, computer sciences, data science, as well as multidisciplinary abilities across the sciences, social sciences, and humanities. The education of future need to be reconfigured in order to meet the goals of the global education development agenda. We are a part of that. The goal 4 of the Sustainable Development Goals 4 of 2030 that seeks to ensure inclusion and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning for opportunities for all. So this is broadly just to give it kind of a flavor of the kind of consideration probably the people who matter in terms of defining when to come out with a policy thought about. Now, how did we go about? A little bit of that also is of interest for the audience here. The process, of course, was that we had the members of the policy committee with the government set it up. And then we had a members of a drafting committee. We thought that besides the policy framing, we also need to bring it up in a way in which it can be presented. We had a special drafting committee. It had members of the policy committee also. And then we had a set of members, experts, who provided a kind of a technical secretariat support for doing this. And not to be satisfied with it, this is where I have my own strong views. The question of being independently evaluated with respect to the type of presentation we are making, ideas that we have created, and the strategy we have crafted. We put certain peer reviewers, people who are away from the policy formulation, who are very well aware of the kind of educational system, the academic system this country over the years, and therefore competent enough to give us very vital inputs about the first level of drafting this policy. So there were peer reviewers here. Discussions and consultation, we went through a even though this particular policy was initially having a basis of previous policy document, in fact, 4 years of work, very intense work had gone through in the formulation of this policy earlier itself. Documentation from downward consultations were there, submissions from individuals and groups were there. So there was the previous Honorable Minister of Education. We had also the TSR Subramaniam Committee and many others. So we had many things to fall back on. The question was to review them, to adopt them, and to see where we need to move extra efforts. And that is where we saw that discussions and consultations with the different stakeholders, including organizations, institutions, and individuals. We had quite a number of inputs which were new, which had very unique in terms of things which were not earlier presented or considered for discussion. And of course, when everything was ready and when we made an initial presentation to the ministry, they felt that ultimately it will go into the public domain. Is a national, very important national document. We need to get the public responses of what they are in for the future of education. We got more than 2.5 lakh responses from both from the school and the college education, higher education point of view. So that was another major thing. We went through a consultation with the state educational authorities, including in many of the states, we had also consultation with the state ministers. And then we had a review, so that when the policy was in the near final stages, the number of reviews were conducted by the Honorable Prime Minister himself. In fact, he went through every aspect of the policy and every items of the policy, and he wanted to make sure that there is a level of pragmatism and the ability to carry this forward in the implementation domain. So this is one of the important things that the Honorable Prime Minister, he came out with several interesting suggestions also, I should mention. So that is the other part of it. And finally, we got the cabinet approval on the 29th of July 2020. Immediately following that, for a number of measures, the first and foremost was to make sure that there is a very intense familiarization process for this. So major conferences with chancellors, vice chancellors, directors of higher education institutions, other high-level functionaries were convened. These are meetings convened by UGC and Ministry of Education and addressed by Honorable Prime Minister and His Excellency the President of India. So these were kind of things that were also carried. This also underscored the importance at the highest level that they attach to the policy. And now we are in the stages, and I will say at the end of my talk a little bit about how the concerned agencies and the ministry is moving towards the implementation. Now, to just give a framework for the policy provides an integrated and flexible approach to education. It has kept the interconnectedness, the various phases of education in mind, and how the same will enable continuity, coherence, and processes to ultimately realize an end-to-end educational roadmap for the country. An articulation of a broad view of education encompassing the holistic development with special emphasis on kindling of the creative potential of each individual in its richness and complexity has grown increasingly popular in the recent years, several domains of discussions. The policy thus aims to have it aims at the development of the 21st century skills. I don't have to re-emphasize what these 21st century skills are here for the students, while giving them the flexibility in making choices consistent with the dynamics of a knowledge society. Before we go straight into the higher education and go into the details of the same, a little bit about the connection between the school education and the higher education. We do recognize, all of us, and the policy does so, the interconnectedness of the various phases of education. I mentioned it earlier. School education is of intrinsic importance, there's no question. How a student experiences the schooling phase of education could have a significant influence on those subsequently pursue higher education, including professional and vocational, besides, of course, helping to lay the foundation for lifelong learning. So keeping this in mind, I'm trying to first put the overall policy element, the element that is gone into the policy as a part of the academic side, not just on the governance and other areas. We have the early childhood care and education, home education, Anganwadis and preschools. One of the very key elements, because we did make transformatory recommendations in the context of the early school education. I will say a few words about it in the subsequent projections. And right now it is divided over a 15-year period of foundational, preparatory, middle, and secondary. We'll see the details of that. On the higher side, of course, we have the undergraduate, general education, teacher education, professional and vocational to focus a little bit. And then we have the postgraduate, masters, and PhD, need not be emphasized here. And ultimately, a national research foundation, a unique institution that will spur the research, and particularly in the educational institution and university system particular. And then, of course, we have areas like lifelong learning, adult education, and many other areas that have been also including the use of technology for education. These are all part and part of. So this is just the broad elements of the policy which you have touched upon in the policy. And I will, of course, as requested, I will try to concentrate on the higher education, but not before saying a few words about the kind of things that we have thought about in bringing the school education to a new domain. The extent 10+2 structure is what the early school education will be. It will be modified with a new pedagogical and curricular restructuring of 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, covering the ages 3 to 18. I have shown it here in terms of 4 levels. The foundational level, where the policy, this is the education starts, unlike at 6 years, now it starts at 3 years. 3 to 8 years is what we characterize the first 5 years as the foundational phase of the school education, 3 years of pre-primary, preschool, and then we have a primary education, which is first and second class, the grades. So you have the 5 years here. What is important in this phase, which will take you up to the age of 8, is the fact that the policy recognizes the individual differences in the cognitive development of children at this stage, and therefore formal structured learning will be absent during these 5 years. So the important thing is that each child has to be evaluated with respect to its growth of the brain, and these are not uniform, so there is no linear pattern in which the growth occurs. And it's also important that 85% of the brain virtually is matured by the age of 8. So we need to make sure that the learning process is suitably adopted, that maximal advantage of this kind of a pattern by 85% by the age of 8 is whether it is language learning, whether it is literacy and numeracy. These are all critical elements in this phase of the foundational phase of the school education. This you carry forward a little more from unstructured, you go into the curricular structure in the next 3 years, that is from age 8 to age 11, where the curricular structure and standardization can be slowly introduced. And carrying this forward for the next 3 years, you virtually go into subject areas. You have a teacher children student interaction much more effectively, and also have the capacity for abstraction, because that is something which was the earlier two phases much less because of the nature of the brain growth. And lastly, we have the secondary education, the last 4 years of school education, ages 14 to 18. There will be multidisciplinary orientation with exit options. This is the phase that will prepare the student for undergraduate program, and that's why I'm coming to this, because undergraduate program is very much related to the kind of orientation in the policy that we have tried to create in the secondary level of the school education, including early introduction of liberal arts education. So this is the kind of a thing. Of course, you have vocational education here, you have the exit option here. If you want to leave at the age of 18, the school education and take up some kind of a job, there are enough provisions for that, enough training and other kinds of things. In fact, we have recommended that we need to have a youngster who knows at least one vocational area thoroughly, 100%, in by the time he leaves the school, that kind of a thing. And the first 4 elements of the vocational education in the overall scheme is a part of the secondary and part of the middle as well as the secondary education. So this is the broad thing. I thought I wanted to emphasize this mainly because these are the times in the we understand today the neural sciences and the kind of cognitive science which dictated this study of creating a policy around the present understanding of the brain and its growth. And I thought I should bring it to the attention of this erudite audience. And this is just to give you an idea of a brain, how critical it is to make sure that we make use of the brain and its stimulation, the early phase of the child's growth. And one can see very clearly a cognitive stimulation, what it does to the brain, to a case where such a simulation has not occurred. We can very clearly see the temporal lobes, how different they are in terms of its growth and maturity, and which essentially means how much you take advantage of the pattern of the brain growth in terms of the learning process and also the teaching process. Now, having said all this with respect to the school education, we move over to the undergraduate education, part of the higher education. What the policy does is to promote a holistic. We have made a broad approach which is holistic and multidisciplinary at the undergraduate level. And this is something which is not new to this audience, and especially I don't know IIT Delhi's some of the very early efforts in the context of holistic and multidisciplinary education. They generate more imagination and creativity in the student to ensure their all-rounded development. And of course, the concept which we today turn as a liberal education, which is really multidisciplinary and holistic, is an age-old idea in the Indian context. I don't have to say this again, the Banabhatta's Kadambari, which is considered a person was recognized as truly educated when he mastered the 64 kalas encompassing music, dance, painting, culture, languages, and in addition to subjects such as science, engineering, and mathematics, as well as vocational subjects. Liberal education explores the remarkable relationships that exist among the sciences and humanities, mathematics and arts, medicine and physics, etc., and more generally, the surprising unity of all fields of human endeavor. A comprehensive liberal education develops all capacities of human beings: intellectual, aesthetics, social, physical, emotional, and moral in an integrated manner. So, this is the approach, and this is the one we have tried to translate into the policy as a crucial step to lead India into the 21st century. The fourth industrial revolution, multidisciplinary education is central. Even engineering schools, I know IITs following this, in this case, will move towards more holistic multidisciplinary education with more arts and humanities. While arts and humanities students will have to learn more science, while all will try to make an effort to incorporate more vocational subjects and soft skills. India's rich legacy, I mentioned about Bhanabhatta's work and many other kind of work subsequently in the arts as well as in sciences and beyond, will significantly help in making the move towards such an education, hopefully an easy and natural transition. Now, how is it that the policy has put that in concrete terms? Liberal education with broad multidisciplinary exploration, it has to be an imaginative and flexible curricular structure, creative combinations of disciplines of study. This has been chosen, whether it's arts, crafts, sciences, mathematics. One has to see how do you create a creative combination. This has to be all worked out. And multiple exit and entry option is another important feature of the undergraduate education. And master's and doctoral education will provide the sub-based specialization as a part of the higher education. The 3 to 4 year undergraduate course with multiple exit options, the 4-year program is the main recommendation in terms of the undergraduate program. Undergraduate degree will encompass, of course, liberal arts, multidisciplinary and holistic education. And then you have the chosen major and minor concept that is there. We have the vocational subjects, and later on, even professional education will be brought into this kind of an undergraduate education, which is a 4-year. The 3-year program, which is currently very much there, will be retained with the necessary changes to bring in more holisticity and interdisciplinarity. Both the 3 and 4-year programs lead to a degree with honors with research work. So that is another thing that one. So there is a provision for research work in the undergraduate program, which prepare on one side, it really enriches the youngster. On the other side, we certainly have a better preparation for the higher education. And ultimately, exit provision does exist with a 2-year diploma in the with a 2-year diploma at the end of 2 years of undergraduate, and a 1-year certificate at the end of the first year of the undergraduate education. These are all drawn in a way in which there is enough provision for the person when he exits, he will have an appropriate kind of a professional career which can be chosen. And this is a preparation that you try to do in the first year and second year of the undergraduate education, with the proviso that in case in the later years you want to come back to the education with certain provisions with respect to the preparatory part of the entry, you can still continue your education to a 3rd year or a 4th year or even higher education part of the postgraduate education. This is also kept as a flexibility in the system. On the master's side, 2 years for those with the 3-year undergraduate degree, 1 year for those with the 4-year undergraduate degree with honors, and an integrated 5-year program is the 3 kind of flexible way in which you can go towards master education. Next one I would like to bring is the integrating professional education. Regarding the integration of professional education with general education, the policy aims to take a holistic view to the preparation of professionals by ensuring broad-based competencies, an understanding of the social human context, a strong ethical compass, and addition to the highest quality professional capacities. There is something holistic about the recommendation that we have made. I'm sure most of the professionals are very aware of this particular part of it, especially the IIT faculty and the academics. And but we have made a strong pitch for this because we think many of the higher education institutions, especially the university system, certainly need to address this much more seriously than what has been done so far. All institutions offering either professional or general education must be organically evolved into a multidisciplinary institution offering both by 2030. The overall higher education sector will aim to be an integrated higher education system, including professional and vocational education. Thus, this approach will be applicable to all higher education institutions across the current streams, which will eventually merge into one coherent ecosystem of higher education. This is ultimately the objective by 2030, 2035. There is certainly a time frame. It's not easy to make this kind of transformation, but we think that we need an integrated professional education as a part of an overall higher education. Now we come to the quality higher academic research in the fields. Again, I don't have to carry coal to Newcastle by giving you why we should do research, but put some numbers here just to see that the situation in our country with respect to research. Whereas IITs and those ISERs and things like that, you have tremendous research and vibrant activity going along with teaching. The broader question of the university systems, both state and the central, I think we need to do quite a lot. Even though we do address this question of a quality academic research in the overall context of higher education institution, we would like to particularly make this policy focused on educational systems in the university, and many of the state universities and other private and some of the other private universities certainly has to review this in the context of the type of recommendation we made. And we do know the importance of the European Union estimate that 2/3 of the economic growth of Europe during they came the research. You had also, if you really look at the European accomplishments in the research and innovation, I was just trying to look at some of the details. 15% of all productivity gains in 2000 to 13, and that an annual increase of 0.2% of GDP in R&D investment result in an annual increase of 1.1% in GDP, a five-fold return for the type of outcome that they were getting. If you look at the present research and innovation investment in our case, 0.7, 0.8, we can keep debating on that. One has to compare it with respect to something like 2.8 in US or for 4.3 in Israel or South Korea. These are the kind of just 3 times the proportion of GDP. And this lower level of investment certainly meant the number of researchers in India per lakh of population is just 15. Numbers are 400, 800 kind of numbers. If you talk of US as an example, other it has an impact. I don't have to again emphasize low levels of patent application and scientific publication. So these are the kind of thing, and certainly it was a very important agenda in the annual discussion with regard to propagating research in the higher educational institutions. And so we have spent a considerable space and time to make sure that we have some very tangible recommendations on promoting this. Now, how have we tried to recommend it? We have tried to recommend the creation of a national research foundation. It is it is based on the fact that the policy will put emphasis on catalyzing and energizing research and innovation across the country in all academic disciplines, with particular focus on the state universities and colleges. I said that in the beginning, and that is where really the lacuna does exist, and they're serious that too. A fund to seed research in all universities and colleges so that synergies between the research and quality education can be leveraged maximally. NRF will fund across all disciplines, it's not only in engineering, and also it will expand the research and innovation at all universities and colleges, including private institutions. We have not made a distinction between private institutions and public funded institutions. And the criterion will be, of course, the merit of the proposal and the kind of capability to do research and the type of outcomes. And we need to make sure that they get the benefit of a funding system where this can be pushed further. After all, they also educate Indians, and many of the people depend on the private institutions for education. The NRF will have the provision to cover many themes: science, technology, social sciences, arts, humanities, and many more. In the scope, of course, everybody understands funding research through a competitive peer review process, building research capacity at academic institutions across the country through mentorship. There are very specific recommendations we have made regarding the mentorship, the type of bringing in people who are veterans of research, who are at this time available for guiding research in these kind of institutions, who can spend some time doing research, guiding research, and also establishing the capability to conduct research in these kind of institutions, and then create the beneficial linkages between researchers, academy, everybody talks about this, and disseminating research through seminars, which is the other aspect of doing research. So these are the kind of things. This is just to give a little brief summary, a snapshot of the kind of thought that we are put into the National Research Foundation. We think this needs to be established, and this is also going to be. We had, of course, in our mind things like the National Research Foundation of USA. There are models of establishing this kind of a system, which really becomes a place where they address the excellence, the relevance, and the kind of outcomes with respect to research. And this has had a very strong influence on the support of research in the educational systems in many of the advanced countries, and particularly if you look at the models like US and Europe. And the other aspect that we have addressed is question of energized and educational capable faculty. We have spent devoted considerable space with regard to the questions of the faculty, the quality and engagement of its faculty. And virtually, we can say the faculty is put back at the heart of the higher education. The rampant practice of contractual appointment, one issue, very heavy teaching loads, these are all may not be applicable to institutions like IITs. But these are anyway, I don't have to emphasize these aspects of it with respect to the broader issue of higher education. The infrastructure support, most faculty do not even have a structural faculty recruitment and development plan. So we have gone into the details, areas like recruitment, development plan, career proposal, progression, compensation management. Every part of the institutional development plan should carry this in the higher education, appropriately designed a permanent employment tenure track system for the thing in by 2030, autonomous faculty empowered to make curricular choices, conduct assessment of students, infrastructure for continuous professional development. These are other aspects of it, and appropriately designed bridge courses for mid-career professionals to get into teaching. That's also available so that if anybody wants to get into the teaching profession from another area where you need to facilitate this by the appropriate bridge courses that can be worked out. One of the important things that we have tried to do is to consider the school education and the teachers for the school education. One thing we found that the existing system, the school education, doesn't meet the type of standards and the type of things that we need to have as a background for teaching at the school level by the conventional educational system providing teacher education. What we have tried to do is to move the school education preparation will be done in the multidisciplinary universities. Departments of education will be set up in many universities to offer a 4-year integrated state-specific BEd. The whole idea is to bring in BEd as one more of those undergraduate educational stream, one of the undergraduate educational stream, put it at a par with the other professional educational themes as well as the mainstream education. So BEd will be an undergraduate program of study covering both disciplinary and pedagogic teacher preparation courses for each stage of education, foundational to secondary. All subjects, including arts, sports, vocational education, they will be mainstream. On par with other undergraduate degrees, gradually the 4-year program will be eligible for master's and PhD programs. And the current 2-year BEd program will continue till 2030, but that after 2030, only those institutions who are capable or who are qualified to provide a 4-year teacher education can offer the 2-year teacher education. So we want to make sure that the standard, the quality, and the excellence that is intrinsic to defining the teacher education and preparation certainly it takes into account through the higher education systems overseeing the teacher preparation and education. 2-year program will be used for lateral entry of school teachers. There are also many interests in the people becoming school teachers in the lateral mode. Specifically designed courses in the pedagogy for mid-career professionals to become faculty will also be introduced. And I don't have to say substandard and dysfunctional teacher educational, thousands of them have been already shut down. And this is recommended to be reviewed. Either they move towards institutions like the degree giving autonomous colleges or they close down or move over to other areas where the teacher education is not the main focus for these institutions. Something on the educational technology, Professor Ram Gopal mentioned about this with respect to the Prime Minister's this thing. We have addressed the questions of integrating technology at all levels of education. There is a very specific section where we have discussed this. I don't think I need to go much into the details of this. Again, the questions of four broad categories, well known: improving teaching, learning, imitation, and supporting teacher preparation, continuous teacher professional development, enhancing educational access to disadvantaged groups, streamlining educational planning, administration, and management, and teacher training for trade. The edutech is critical. And towards this, I also bring in some example where improving teaching, learning, and evaluation as a part of the educational system's resilience during the recent crisis like the COVID-19, the online education, synchronous mode, live interactions, and asynchronous mode, blending high-quality pre-recorded content, rapid feedback with automated smart evaluation. So these are the kind of things on the improving the teaching and learning and education. Example regarding the supporting the teacher education and continuous teacher professional development, you have the recommender systems for content and certifications. Just another example in the COVID-19 scenario, the enhancing educational access to a disadvantaged group, connect the few specialized teachers to virtual classrooms of learners with specific needs, must address the digital divide. That is the biggest problem with respect to the implementation of some of the digital divide, and certainly this is to be seen. Now, streamlining education planning, administration, and management. We are also trying to set up as a part of this a national repository. There is a national repository of educational data to track progress in achieving educational goals. So this is just to give you a gist of the kind of thing that we have gone into details in the policy on the questions of educational introduction. But equally important is the fact we have tried to create a kind of a setup. It is not creating a lab, or it's not creating a facility, but it's a kind of a forum, a national educational technology forum, which we have recommended to be set up with the following rules to provide. The reason why we thought about this kind of a body in the context of choices, in the context of selection, in the context of a research in educational technology, in the context of adaptation of educational technology from other sources of technology. The reason why I thought is the moment you throw open an technology as a facilitator for certain type of function, whether it is related to education or many other areas, it could be even to deal with energy from the waste. The type of technology and the type of options that will be available are enormous. And most of the time, the ability to make choices is one of the biggest problems that we see. The questions of when ISRO did work related to a national, what you may call as a developmental program, where you wanted to bring educational information to remote areas. The choice was to make sure that we create educational material. But what were the materials? Those materials had to be researched whether it is appropriate for the tribal population which is going to receive the material. 2 to 3 years of research work was needed before you could decide what the educational material and the technique of reaching the local population who will receive those material, and they will get enriched themselves in the process. This is a major challenge. This is one of the kind of example that if you want to proliferate the technology, you need to have a means of studying it, understand, evaluate, and regulate it. That is the idea that National Educational Technology Forum that we have to set up to provide an independent evidence-based advice to state and governments on adoption of technology-based interventions, to build intellectual and institutional capacities in educational technology, to envision strategic thrust in areas of technology domain, and to promote education in them among education institutions, and to articulate new directions of research and innovation, the use of technology for improving education. We would assume that these kind of things, also the actual activities on research and things, will be carried out by the Department of Education, which will come up in the higher educational institution, at least some of the higher educational institution. So the National Educational Technology Forum will maintain a regular inflow of authentic data from multiple sources, including the educational technology innovators and practitioners, particularly at the grassroots level. Disruptive technology, I don't know, this is something you're very much day to day, you're seized with. The 1986-1992 policy could not expect the internet's disruption. This policy fully expects the educational system to face many technological disruptions, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on. Two major aspects related to such disruptive technology we have identified: harnessing technology to improve educational outcomes, that is human plus artificial intelligence, hybrid interactive systems, education in new and disruptive technologies, identifying them and preparing students in new large numbers. And finally, the project addresses both these kind of a thing, the policy. Now, on the governance side, I've just tried to, again, we got the policy in the beginning of my talk. I'm just coming back to the policy side and what is the kind of a governance structure that has been done. I am trying to here show the state education and the central education in two color codings. The blue is the color code for higher education and the yellow is the color code for this. And the main thing is the central agency for the education, the CABE, which is currently there, a council of the educational the thing. This particular CABE, the Central Advisory Board of Education, is now in this policy, they have elevated to the level that they will oversee the overall administration, governance, and evaluation of how the policy is going to work at from the central level, and also to make fine tuning or midterm corrections if needed, and virtually becomes a kind of a kind of a reviewer and evaluator, and also a recommender with respect to the changes needed in the context of the higher education. So this is the system which is adopting the Central Advisory Board and making it more empowered. Then we have an Higher Educational Commission of India, which is what is recommended to be set it up as the highest body on the higher educational commissions. As a part of the governance, you have the four major verticals that are there under the HECI. One is academic and standard setting, which can be the PS, the professional standard setting bodies, and so on. That G is the General Education Council, the National Council of Technical Education, the All India Council of Technical, the medical. Ultimately, they will all come under the PS, the professional standard setting bodies, under the academic and standard setting. And on the academic side, you have, of course, the National Higher Energy Qualification Framework for higher education. And then you have the second one, which is regulation, the National Higher Educational Regulatory Body. And then you have accreditation, National Accreditation, this is the council. Then you have the funding, Higher Educational Grants Council. So these are the four verticals under a Higher Educational Commission of India. This is what is recommended. And of course, the education provision will continue to be given by the autonomous institutions and other types of institutions which are a part of higher education or school education. So this is the kind of a structure, broad structure, that we have tried to evolve with respect to the governance of the educational system, and with this clear delineation of the higher education part of it. Important about this is the fact that empowered governance and autonomy of higher education. This is something which I don't think that this need to be much discussed when a place like IIT or IAC, but it's good to know that this is one of the things that can't be enough concern while debating on the subject with several of the experts in this area. The recognizes the effective governance and leadership is the key to creation of a culture of excellence in the innovation of higher educational institutions. All the higher educational institutions in the next 15 years will become autonomous, self-governing entities through a system of graded accreditation or graded autonomy. With appropriate graded accreditation, such institutions shall establish a board of governors consisting of highly qualified and competent individuals with proven capabilities and a strong sense of commitment, something which we need to do for many of the higher education institutions in this country. The board of governors will be empowered to govern the institution free of any external interference. Something everybody talks about it. This is something very explicitly made clear in the policy. Make all appointments, including that of the head of the institution, and take all decisions regarding the governors. The board of governors will be responsible and accountable to the stakeholders through transparent self-disclosures of the relevant thing. The board of governors to develop a strategic institutional development. These are all there in many of the institutions, long term, medium term, 5 years, or short term, 1 to 3 years, based on the institution can develop educational and research outcome, parameters for quality and capacity, improve organizational and financial and human resource development plan to assess the progress. So this is just to give you a flavor of what we have recommended in the empowered governance and autonomy of the higher education. So the most important aspect is the fact that we have strongly recommended the autonomy on the governance, on the academics, as also on the finances. Now, what is the kind of way forward before I conclude the thing? There are several things I did mention in the beginning of my talk that there has been one of the most important steps that was taken immediately after the government took decision on accepting this recommendation with necessary inputs from public domain and other sources is the fact that once they knew that there were a number of presentations, there were a number of discussions, there were a number of seminars and other kinds of interactive systems. And both Honorable Prime Minister and Honorable President were involved in many of these. I don't have to say that here. Many of you were there as a part of that particular thing. So there is quite a lot that has happened in terms of sensitizing the policy in its role, but certainly there are many things which continue to be inquired about, seek clarification about, and not every some of them will come forward only when you try to do these things. You start getting a feel of the issues, and that is where I said about the midterm correction or fine tuning or better clarification or change of strategy. This will be a part and parcel of this, but by and large, I find that this is understood by many of the policymakers and implementation the related responsible people. The MOE itself has done an action plan. Now they have done it. I understand. They have, because I'm telling this this part of it more from the inputs that I received rather than trying to be a part of it. But I want to say that the MOE has certainly provided a good action plan which they have worked it out, which has got something like 100 and they have taken the higher education policy section. They have looked at the various policies items. They have converted them into identified action plans, and 181 activities have been identified with the time frame that it needs to do this under 16 broad themes. This is what they have tried to do. We need to do this. There's a continuous churning of these ideas, and some discussions are going on this. The UGC on its own has been also organizing conclaves for discussions on this particular thing. And then there have been a lot of the outreach of the policy to different segments of the governance systems of the country, both the central and the state, has been another major feature of the recent efforts in trying to make sure that the policy is read, understood, and then come out with suitable strategies of implementation which are applicable, because there are the local issues also. One has to keep it in mind. There is a broad strategy that we need to have for the country, for the policy to be translated into the next step of implementation, and also specifics with respect to the local conditions or the regional conditions and things of that kind, which is more than just the policy. It has got finances, it has got the resources, human resource, and many other things. So this is something on which work will be done. But the fact I would like to emphasize is, and you know this again because you are a part of a system which is implementing it, that this work is in the forward, in the movement. And I cannot but conclude with the statement that, as I said in the beginning, I think this is a very unique policy. It has its own challenges to implement. But I think what is important and what is reassuring for some of us is the fact that many elements of this has been done in some form or other by institutions. And I mentioned about the IIT Delhi because of its pioneering role in areas like multidisciplinarity and approach of science, technology, and policy, society, or more recently, with respect to humanity and social sciences to be integrated into the undergraduate education. So these are things on which it is not that these are all totally new because of the policy, but there is much more. That has been done through the various actions and directions and visions of various leaders and institutions of this country. I'm sure that we need to understand it very clearly. We need to see how that can be adopted and how this policy itself can aid in taking it forward. So, with these few words, I would like to thank again the Institute, the director, deputy director, and others for this privilege of talking to you and sharing my thoughts with you. Thank you very much.
My name is K. Ramachandran. Currently, I work as Senior Advisor, Unit for International Cooperation, National Institute of Educational Planning and Administration, New Delhi. The topic I have today is importance of policy in education and the fundamental principles guiding the National Education Policy 2020. Let me take the first part. What is the importance of a policy in the field of education? A policy normally gives a direction for education development in the country, say, for the next 10 years, next 20 years, and so on. Policy sets a vision. For instance, the National Policy on Education 2020 envisions an education system rooted in Indian ethos that contributes directly to transforming India into an equitable, vibrant knowledge society by providing quality education to all, thereby making India a knowledge superpower. That is the overall vision. So a policy provides a vision based on which we can formulate programmatic interventions to fulfill the vision, at the same time also to meet the education sector development programs in the country. The National Education Policy 2020 has certain fundamental principles guiding it. Number one, for instance, the policy seeks to recognize, identify, and foster the unique capabilities of each student so that we can nurture and foster her or his holistic development. The term holistic development is very important. I'll come back to that later. The second term, which is very important for all of us, is the term flexibility. The NEP 2020 envisages flexibility in paths of learning, in choice of programs and courses, so that the education can be tuned to the interest and talent of each student. So this is the second principle guiding the policy. The third principle is what we call honoring student diversity. India is a country of tremendous diversity in terms of socio-economic status, in terms of culture, in terms of language, and so on. And therefore, the kind of students we get also would be of tremendous diversity. Many of them could be at the undergraduate, postgraduate level, first generation learners. How do we honor this diversity? Let me get back to the term holistic development. What do we mean by this term, holistic education? It simply means an education program that would help develop all capacities of human beings. For example, intellectual development or intellectual capacities, physical capacities, social development, emotional development, aesthetic development, ethical practices, and moral development, all in an integrative form. To have this integrated approach, therefore, will require exposure of students to or building capacities across variety of disciplines like arts, humanities, social sciences, natural sciences, vocational education, performing and visual arts, and so on. That would be what you call a multidisciplinary education approach. So to promote holistic development in the higher education sector, two quick actions. Number one, moving higher education institutions into large multidisciplinary institutions. And the word large is also important. In India, we have a large number of standalone institutions with the enrollment in many cases less than 1,000 and even less than 500. How do we move these single stream higher education institutions to a multidisciplinary institution? That becomes a transformative initiative, number one, for us. Second, can we offer in our universities and colleges multidisciplinary programs? That means a person may major in physics, maybe the person may offer a minor or opt for a minor in music or a visual art or history or economics. That means there is no clear-cut demarcation between arts, sciences, vocational field, and so on. That means the boundary between different areas of knowledge can be removed and get an integrated holistic education. Students are given options to choose courses or programs of study according to their interests and talents. And that is possible only we offer what we call multidisciplinary education. Gradually, all undergraduate programs in the country will move towards a multidisciplinary education approach, including those related to professional education, vocational education, and so on. So therefore, many of these professional, technical, and vocational education programs also will have this approach, what we call a multidisciplinary approach to education. So this is a transformative initiative we envisage through the implementation of the National Education Policy 2020. Third, the National Education Policy 2020 envisages what we call institutional restructuring and consolidation. What do we mean by this? All higher education institutions in the country would be categorized into three groups. Number one, those which are referred to research intensive university. They will offer high quality research programs in addition to high quality teaching. That means the focus will be on both high quality research and teaching. This will be one set of higher education institutions. Second, teaching intensive universities. They will focus more on high quality teaching, but at the same time, they will also do significant research. This is a second category. The third category belongs to what is referred to as autonomous colleges or constituent colleges, which can award undergraduate degrees. But they will also, if they accept 4-year undergraduate program, will also have research projects done by the students. These are the 3 categories of institutions we propose to have during the next 10 years. Research intensive universities, teaching intensive universities, autonomous colleges, or constituent colleges, which will award undergraduate degrees. Gradually through this, the affiliating system followed by the current universities will go away. It means many of them would become, the colleges affiliated now, would become what is referred to as autonomous colleges or constituent colleges, which would be an integral part of the university. So this is what we call institutional restructuring and consolidation. The 4th aspect, if you really want to improve the quality of education, make it multidisciplinary approach to education, we will need to attempt revamping of curriculum, including pedagogy and assessment program. Therefore, we will need to undertake curricular revision. Learning content should be revised. Pedagogical approaches should be made in tune with the revised curricular structure, and assessment that would help in moving towards, in terms of the multidisciplinary approach. This is what we call moving towards academic excellence. Now, academic excellence, as I indicated earlier, include 3 things. Number 1, enhancing the relevance of learning contents. This is one aspect. The syllabi has to be revised, and the contents related to these must be improved. Second element of academic excellence is what is referred to as teaching excellence. How can we ensure that the teaching and learning process is improved to make it excellent in terms of imparting relevant knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values among all our students? Third element of academic excellence is, as I indicated earlier, improving the assessment methodologies and procedures. The policy talks about 3 approaches to assessment. Number 1, assessment of learning. That means assessment of learning outcomes, expected learning outcomes. Sometimes we call summative assessment. This is one aspect that helps students to move towards certification and so on, improve learning process, and see how we can move forward. The second element is what we call assessment for learning. Teachers assess learning to improve their own teaching methodologies, instructional strategies, pace, styles, and so on. This is essentially what is referred to as formative assessment. In fact, the emphasis now will be more and more on formative assessment. The next element is what we call assessment as learning. After assessment, students have what you call self-assessment strategy. Can they make self-corrections? Can they do self-monitoring of expected learning outcomes and make corrections required to enhance learning? That means the students themselves will use assessment to improve learning processes. That is assessment as learning. All these are part of what we call academic excellence. The next element of policy is faculty as the main part of learning process. Faculty at the heart of learning process. It means faculty excellence is something we aim at. This would need high quality induction programs for university and college faculty, high quality refresher program for the existing 1.5 million faculty in universities and colleges, for their continuous professional learning and development, and through that we can bring about faculty excellence for three core functions. Number one, what we call teaching excellence, scholarship, and so on, including next one, excellence in research, teaching, and scholarship. So one important aspect of policy, therefore, is can we enhance the quality of research being done by Indian universities through the creation of the National Research Foundation, which will fund peer-reviewed research proposals and programs proposed to be undertaken by universities, mainly universities and faculty of universities and students. So therefore, the next transformative initiative relates to enhancing quality of research or catalyzing quality research and innovations. This is again a transformative initiative. The next transformative initiative we are talking about is, again, in the context of academic excellence, is utilizing technology. That means leveraging technological and digital technologies in education for 3-4 purposes. Number one, enhancing access to quality education. Number one is this. Second, improving the quality of teaching and learning process in universities and colleges and other higher education institutions. Third, can we leverage technology for continuous professional learning and development of our faculty in universities and colleges? Fourth, can we use technology to improve educational planning and administration at all levels of education, including higher education management system? Next transformative initiative in this context is changing the regulatory system of higher education. We now have a single body regulating the higher education system. Can we ensure that the higher education system have a body for regulatory functions, a separate body, maybe named as Higher Education Regulatory Authority. Second, a body for standard setting in higher education, a separate body for standard setting, referred to as General Education Council. The third body, as we have now, for assessment and accreditation of higher education institutions. What is being done by NAC? Can NAC be a meta-accreditation body, which may have many more bodies to accredit, and NAC plays the role of a meta-accreditation coordination body. Last, a body for financing higher education. All together, all these four, that is regulatory body, standard setting body, accreditation body, financing body, under an umbrella organization called the Higher Education Commission of India. This is considered to be another transformative initiative. What the policy proposed is, while regulating higher education, we want a system that is simple but tight, that not too many indicators, take a few indicators to accredit a body, regulate a body, but enforce it tightly. So that's the kind of thing we are talking, that this system will help develop quality education institutions. And in this context, technology is an important aspect as well. The next element in the context is policy is based on what you call equity and inclusion in all higher education institutions and so on. So equity and inclusion, I consider inclusion as providing access to success, not just access to facilities, and ensuring retention. Can we ensure that all enrolled students in the country will have access to success? They would attain the expected learning outcomes in the case of all students. So equity and inclusion as cornerstone of the National Education Policy 2020. Next in the case is, can we ensure what is called the support system for all colleges and universities, a quality learning environment to ensure a conducive learning environment for, a support system for students, how we can do it. So an important emphasis of the policy is on what is referred to this as improving the quality of learning environment and support systems, including the healthcare systems for students and faculty. Can we attempt that? Last but not least, I talked about this. When we say continuous professional development of faculty, I normally mention 5-6 areas of action. Number one, that training is important, as we do through this program. But in addition to that, can we have faculty exposed to good lectures by experts in the field on variety of disciplinary areas, and so on. Number two, can we have demonstration lessons, demonstration teaching for all faculty members, subject related, subject specific, and so on. Third, we may have virtual or in-person subject specific groups which can meet virtually or in person once a month to discuss issues related to subject areas and so on. Next, can we provide opportunities to faculty to have action research on pedagogy, curricular contents, learning assessment, and so on? Can we aim at that? Next, can we ensure opportunities for faculty to participate in state level, university level, national level seminars, conferences, and so on? That also contributes to faculty learning and development. And lastly, even international exposure to faculty, participating short-term programs abroad, customized program on research and development, and can we do it? And that is one element. Since I have limited time, I'm not trying to say that the policy, when implemented totally, will help enhance student excellence, students capable of demonstrating the graduate attributes expected, the learning outcomes defined for all stages of education. Number one, this. Contribute to achieving academic excellence through improvement of learning contents, teaching, assessment practices. 3, achieving teaching excellence through the kind of programs we talked about. 4, achieving excellence in research and scholarship. 5, achieving staff excellence, non-academic staff in university. Can we achieve that? Next, can we give opportunities to international experience for our students and faculty? Faculty exchange program, student exchange program, and so on. Next, very important, as policy indicates, achieving excellence or quality in university leadership, college leadership, and management. You may ask me a question, what is the difference between leadership and management? A leader is one who sets a vision for your college or university, sets directions for actions during the next 10 years and so on, 15 years, 20 years. And through this, can we aim at reaching a gross enrollment ratio in higher education for the age group 18 to 23 years, 50% by 2030? That is a target. Can we reach that? So excellence in governance and leadership is extremely important thing. Management. A manager controls resources, deploys team to ensure that the proposed vision of a university is enhanced, achieved. And that becomes the role of a manager. To end my discussion, I would say, what is proposed is to implement these transformative initiatives during the next 10 years to ensure high quality, higher education to make India a global knowledge superpower during the next few years to reach the overall vision of the National Education Policy 2020. And in this, faculty of colleges and universities have a pivotal role. And that is why policy says teachers and faculty at the heart of the learning process. So I end by saying, next few years, we invest more in faculty, more in continuous professional learning and development of faculty in each of our higher education institutions to move towards a multidisciplinary higher education institution, to implement a multidisciplinary program, to improve leadership at all levels, to enhance governance management, and these are all part and parcel of the NEP 2020. I stop at this stage. Thank you very much for your kind attention.